There was a demon that lived in the air. They said whoever challenged him would die. Their controls would freeze up, their planes would buffet wildly, and they would disintegrate. The demon lived at Mach 1 on the meter, 750 miles an hour, where the air could no longer move out of the way. He lived behind a barrier through which they said no man could ever pass. They called it the sound barrier. And so they captured a German scientist, Hans Multhopp, who said he could tame the demon. But no one believed him, and no one built his plane. Until today, of course. Welcome back to our series where we build airplanes that never flew in Flyout and see just how well they would have actually flown. And today, we are tackling the Multhopp Supersonic concept that the British had the chance to build but never did. And right away, the Flyout engine creates a problem. You see, the Multhopp design was novel in many respects, but not the least of which was that the pilot would fly the jet lying on his stomach, and the cockpit capsule would be located inside the engine intake. Now, for those that have watched my other videos on planes that never flew, you'll know that I make a concerted effort to match the external dimensions and layout of the airplane to the best of my ability. However, Jimmy the pilot can't be moved to lay down on his stomach, so I had to make a small compromise and build a tiny capsule around him. Fortunately, he still fits in the dimensions of the airplane as it is, without any of his body parts sticking out. Quick shout out to the secret projects forum for the info. The airplane was designed to have a wingspan of 25 feet or 7.62 meters, which I was able to match in the game. The sweep of the wings was listed as being 70 degrees, which is matched in its 3-view and recreated here. Finally, the forums listed the engine as having 6,500 pounds of thrust, which I believe to be 28.8 kilonewtons. That number is reproduced in the in-game jet engine, and for added authenticity, I made it a no-bypass turbojet with a cannula ignition. The design of the aircraft was pretty simple. So simple, in fact, that the full build didn't take too long, only about an hour and a half. I added some seemingly period-accurate RAF roundels and tail flashes just for authenticity. Normally, I would add landing gear, but the original design had a skid that retracted out of the body. Now, the skid would have been supported with a telescoping rod system, which frankly just isn't possible to do on Flyout yet. So to approximate its weight and facilitate a landing, I put the in-game helicopter skids on a rotating joint that would deploy out of the bottom of the vehicle by hitting the G key. Now this aircraft in particular came to my attention through the early 2000s documentary, Planes That Never Flew. That documentary features an interview with the would-be British pilot where he goes on to say that if the British had built this aircraft, they would have been the first through the sound barrier. Of course, history tells us that then Captain Chuck Yeager broke the sound barrier on 14 October 1947 in the skies over Muroc Army Airfield, later Edwards Air Force Base, California. Now, if you're curious why this aircraft wasn't built, according to that documentary, the design was approved by the British Aerospace Establishment, but it was given a security clearance, and as a result, Multhopp, a foreign national, wouldn't be able to work on his own design. Instead, the British efforts to break the sound barrier were limited to taking the swept wings off an Me-163 Comet and bolting them onto an RAF Vampire. The resultant Frankenplane was a death trap, killing one of its test pilots. And this was because the British pilots were unfamiliar with the flying characteristics of a swept wing configuration. Let's not be too hard on them though. It's worth noting that the Bell X-1, the airplane that did break the sound barrier first, used straight wings instead of delta wings. With our model of the Multhopp-designed British supersonic aircraft complete, it was time to see if this aircraft had the right stuff as we took it into the air for the very first time. Even though this aircraft only got up to a simulated .99 Mach, I think the British had the tools to wrangle that demon first. Leave your thoughts in the comments and like and subscribe so that more planes can finally leave their drawing boards and take to the digital skies. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.